Hello, we're back with part two of my conversation with Claire J. Baker. In the first part, we talked about her writing life and its many aspects. And now, in the second part, we're going to hear from Claire, a selection of poems she's chosen. I'll start by reading her bio again. Claire J. Baker has been writing poetry since she was a high school student. After a challenging childhood, she found herself at 20 in an adult creative writing class at Oakland Tech High School. The entire class attended the Poets' Dinner, a long-running tradition. 10 years later, she would win her first poetry award. Claire's poems would be published periodically in the San Francisco Examiner and in the Oakland Tribune. She later joined the Alameda Poets, where she met Mary Rudge, who urged her to self-publish her work. Throughout her 95 years, Claire has used poetry as an anchor toward the goal of psychological survival. Along the way, she became completely immersed in this art form. She has nearly 5,000 poems published to date and keeps a series of scrapbooks of her printed work. Her honors include 6 grand prize performances with Artists Embassy International Dancing Poetry Festival, a grand prize at the Poets' Dinner, and 2 Triton College medallions. She also published a monthly poetry column for Medusa's Kitchen. Claire's self-published books include Touchings, Dear Mother, Trailer Park Poems, and On Trails of Naming, Books 1 and 2. She co-authored Collage of Wild Leaves with Mary Rudge. Claire has been the moving force behind many poetry projects, including a special collection of Coolbrith Circle members' books at Cal State Sacramento, and the establishment of poetry landmarks such as signage at poets' residences. She has been instrumental in various positions with the Ina Coolbrith Circle, has been a contest chair with the Dancing Poetry Festival, and national poetry editor for the National League of American Pen Women. Poetry has been Claire's companion, saving grace, and intellectual challenge as she grew from a young poet into a solid and renowned fixture in the supportive Bay Area literary community. Please welcome our guest, Claire J. Baker.
Sandra, thank you very much for asking me.
You're welcome.
It's wonderful. Yes, I am 95 and I will do my best to give you a reading. Some of the poems are based on my bio and some are not. So I will start with Tenaya Lake, Yosemite. Tenaya Lake. Finally freed from early psychic trauma and not shattered, I am an heiress inhaling ozone of evergreens. Strolling around Tenaya, I reflect on high points of my survival. A mist lifting from my eyes dissolves in quicksilver waves. A few visitors walk here. If anyone greets me, I will respond kindly. If no one, still the lake glows with gold, not of this earth. Thank you. And I guess my style, I like to be lyrical. And I was on a trip in a van with that I didn't know very well. And I was all in the back, way in the back of the van. And I had my writing pad. So I wrote Touchings. I journey through your landscape, touching here a tree, there a rock. I hold your earth in my hands, trace markings on your leaves, hear storms gathering, rain falling. I climb your mountains, touching ferns of your spirit, moss of your gentleness. The trail leads to glaciers of your sorrow, meadows of your serenity. Rocks reveal their suffering, strata on strata. Your triumph in lofty trees, resounding in glory. I journey through your landscape. And I have read the 2 pandemic poems in the first part. Many of my poems were published in The Street Spirit, which I learned about from being in a workshop in Berkeley. One of the ladies was sending and getting published. I said, that's for me. So here we have Night Streets. Again, the homeless. 1. As a swaddled small child, she was cart pushed from lamp to lamp by her destitute mother, who sought comfort from light overhead. Shopping on these streets, the child now mature, a fulfilled woman, remembers her mother, stops under night flowers, gazes into pale petals. Butterfly prayers. Butterflies on flowers press their wings together like praying hands. Like the praying hands we see in windows of bargain shops, which barter for eternity. We're not wise as time, yet know that any moment could trigger urgent hours when we'll need help from God or from butterflies on flowers. And I'll read Unpaved Thoughts on Sleepless Pavement. Sleepless pavement. I have to think about that. Nearing the end of the world, could this be in the offing? Weakened as we are by weather and by endless coughing. We try to stay alive, sometimes forgetting why. If we rival the lowly cockroach, surely we'll survive. And a bag lady's new courage. She takes her shadow for a walk instead of her shadow walking her. And this time she knows where she is going. That's one. I like to put a little lightness in my work. How lovely when eyes develop quirks in the viewing, faults in depth and focus. Now, instead of one full moon, 2 full moons. And then on the lyrical side, listening to Dvorak's Song to the Moon. Joshua Bell's violin transports us on gossamer strings to an outdoor cafe in Capri overlooking the sea. We are alone, but for flowers, fragrance, and the moon. And Blackbird Music, nature poem. I used to walk in the cemetery. It was right across the street from my old mobile home. Blackbird music. 2 flocks gather at opposite ends of a mountain meadow, and poets lie a little. Suddenly, as if responding to the wind's baton or some wild instinct, both flocks glissando into the sky, hover a dream of blue apart, treble chords on clefts of air, nuance of a lullaby. Sweeping higher, the two flocks merge, point and counterpoint, not touching a wing, not missing a beat. Each bird flows back into its own flock. The two flocks fly north and south into a fugue of clouds. It was printed in Poetic Matrix. Well, poets I know have to write about sad things and heavy things. It wouldn't be normal if all poets were writing greeting card verse. So this is an ekphrastic poem that the editor of Medusa's Kitchen put on her website. It was this clock lying in weeds. Ruined clock in weeds. A dying soldier well may ask, Mom, what time is it? Soldiers do not wear a mask, and so they dare to ask, am I done with this grim task of murder, mayhem, grit? A dying soldier's heard to ask, Mom, what time is it? And recently, I was asked for this poem for a very fine website called San Francisco Peace and Hope.com. And of course, I did give it to them, and it's on the website with other poems about Ukraine, which are certainly timely now. This is what poets should be doing, addressing things. For Ukraine, there are sunflowers, the country's bright bloom. Have you held one close to your cheeks, your eyes? Ukrainians do. Tilted, full of grace, there are sunflowers on roadside meadows, in hills and valleys, the size of one's face, all gazing beyond the zeitgeist, the angst. There are sunflowers. What would they tell us, since wide eyes see well? War exceeds at hell on earth. Guardian angels keep hinting. There are sunflowers, yellow, tan, and gold. All a soul can hold. Wash off the bomb dust, toxic weapons stench. Ukrainians stay free, and there are sunflowers. Thank you. It was said in my bio that I had won 6 grand prize performances with Dancing Poetry Festival. That is completely true. And it's been a wonderful affiliation with that very earnest and honest group. Poets should submit to that contest. It's once a year, and they've gone like 26 years now. Here's one of my grand prizes, an early one. Fantasy in New Guinea. When one is about to die, 3 women of the mountains strip your body with dignity. They cover you from chin to knees with large butterflies. Blinking satisfaction, you die, the splendid death of your dreams. The women carry your weightless body to the top of a waterfall. Butterflies blossoming in a tall tree watch over you as you slide down liquid air, land perfectly laid out in a rainforest clearing where you enter the far kingdom as a butterfly. Thank you. And this poem sadly came into use when Mary Rudge's granddaughter was climbing with a group through Colorado mountains, and they came upon a waterfall, and she was last in the group, and she slipped on a rock and died. So they were all at conference. So this was Fantasy in New Guinea was a blending poem for all of the people there, and there must have been 200 or 300. So I believe in getting the poetry out there. In fact, every year I send a postcard to friends that is my poem of the year, and it's short. It doesn't, just short and not threatening, very accessible, but I like doing it. And here's a poem that I've always liked, but because I like it, I don't know if anyone else likes it. I found that to be true sometimes. Lightly and with color. Amazing, this sudden joy. Harsh winds change course when they meet my breath. Boulders soften as I lean. When I gaze at the great pond, swans dip and raise necks, flex wings and arch backs, drip pearls from their beaks. I am a raft of ripples, given light and color from water reflecting the sky that is water. When I wonder of what does joy consist, how can one sustain it? The water ripples back. All answers are momentary. At pond edge, willow fronds overflow into green fountains in a language that honors the gift of breathing. I don't think I've read that aloud very many times. And here's one that I've worked over and over again. All poets have those poems, that kind of poem. A Day's Labyrinth. I want to submit it to the Dancing Poetry Festival, but they've had several labyrinth poems that they've performed, so maybe not. A Day's Labyrinth. Before we enter, we may hesitate, since we know our first decision, as with most of life, leads to another and another choice. Venturing ahead, we run smack into a dead-end thud. While retracing our steps, we may arrive at a calming, conducive to learning. Not alone in the labyrinth, drawn to hearty hellos, we may find another's halo shines the way ahead. Yet we will take our own pathway in grooves bearing our name. Resting in the amazing center, we bask or reflect before homing home, to stay in flux, braving ourselves for tomorrow's totally different labyrinth. And I always end my readings with, let it be. So thanks y'all for being with me. Let it be. In the changing skies of circumstances, let us be like migrating birds, guiding each other by touching wings. By touching wings.
Thank you so
Very much for asking me.
Oh,
I'm 95, then I got asked.
it was a pure delight. Well, I only met you in the last few years, or I knew of you, but it was a pure delight. I loved the butterfly poems and how you returned to that theme over and over.
Thanks.
And the poem about Ukraine was wonderful. I love sunflowers as well, and mostly the range of moods from light and joyful to more serious,
Oh, I love hearing that.
pathetic. Yeah, it was really a wonderful reading. So thanks again.